A couple of weeks ago, I was in my office. I was talking to somebody on the staff, and I just walked into my office with this person, and I had music on, and it was the overture to the Marriage of Figaro, which anybody who knows it is it's a wonderful, wonderful work. And I came to Melos, so I didn't even know who the conductor was who was committing this abomination to it. And the performance was so awful because it was obvious this conductor was trying to make Mozart sound wonderful and trying to make it bubble and make it sound sweet and gay, which the overture is. And it was awful. And all he had to do was step back and let the music do it. It was a driven performance. That's what we do. We try and make somebody sound better than they are. We want to fix them instead of letting the music just do its thing and get out of its way.
Who was the conductor?
Bernstein. Bernstein on his good days was magnificent, and I heard him quite a few times when I was in New York. And on his bad days, well, Bernstein's another story. But he was a great, great talent, actually. And his good days actually more than made up for all the other ones. But it was driven, and that was the problem. Instead of, and he knew better. Right? Instead of letting the music just sing its way through, he forced it. He tried to make it be something else. But that's what we do with each other. We try and force people to fit into a mold that we think they should be in. And how could, again, I mean, the arrogance is incredible. How can we possibly know what people want to do? You know, that's why it's helpful to step back every once in a while and understand how what we think is so important here is just a small, small thread in a tapestry that is so far beyond anything we could imagine. You know, just think about it in terms of linear time. We're talking about an atonement path that spans billions of years. You know, that's incredibly complicated, in which every thread is so interrelated in ways we could not possibly imagine. And so we take a little piece of thread that we don't think is quite right and we want to fix it. Because we think we know what it is. Well, maybe the fixing of it is the problem. Instead of letting that imperfection be part of the whole journey back home. Again, this does not mean that you let people hurt themselves or you don't offer help. You don't even try to help people change their behavior. But if there's a need to do it, if you feel a need in you to make this happen, then you know your ego's taking over. Right? And then it's Bernstein's Marriage of Figaro instead of Mozart's Marriage of Figaro. You know, don't let yourself be the fixer. Don't presume to be Jesus or the Holy Spirit. You get yourself out of the way. That's what humility means. And you let the music do its thing. And when you feel the block, once again, you just touch it lightly and kindly and sweetly and gently. That's all you have to do. And that kind touch would assume a form, behavior, words, that would be helpful. And that would symbolize the underlying love, which is the content. But you don't have to know about the form. You know, the Course says your job is only to choose forgiveness. The extension of forgiveness through you is not your responsibility. Your job is only to choose the holiness. The extension of holiness through you is not your responsibility. Your job is to choose the miracle. The extension of the miracle through you is not your responsibility. And that the extension through you, he's talking about form. The words that you use, your behavior. So let me read you the two paragraphs from the Forgotten Song that's in the text, as you all know. Are there people here with a first edition of the Course? Okay, nobody will confess to it anyway. Okay, all right, so it's page 446. In the text, the bottom of the page, paragraph 6. And we'll just read paragraph 6 and 7. And remember, this really is the true Melos. This is the Melos that underlies our entire being. All right, and it's this song that our lives here in the body, in the world, are designed to protect us from. Because to allow ourselves to hear the song that is there, right, means that our individual notes will disappear. And we would end up disappearing into the heart of God, and that's the ultimate fear. Right? So Jesus begins with the word listen. Right? Perhaps you catch a hint of an ancient state not quite forgotten, dim perhaps, and yet not altogether unfamiliar. like a song whose name is long forgotten and the circumstances in which you heard completely unremembered. Not the whole song has stayed with you, but just a little wisp of melody attached not to a person or a place or anything particular. But you remember from just this little part how lovely was the song, how wonderful the setting where you heard it, and how you loved those who were there and listened with you. The notes are nothing, yet you have kept them with you, not for themselves, but as a soft reminder of what would make you weep if you remembered how dear it was to you. You could remember, yet you are afraid, believing you would lose the world you learned since then. And yet you know that nothing in the world you learned is half so dear as this. In a sense, that's really what Jesus' purpose is in this course, is to have us recognize that what we made as a defense against that world of love and that song is not satisfying to us. It does not give us that peace that we want. And that's what enables you to be truly understanding of everyone, truly empathic, truly compassionate with everyone, because you would recognize everybody is in the same boat. We've all made up a world that we know has not worked, but we're terrified to let it go. Right? Again, as I mentioned other times, that's what Freud really had in mind when he talked about the repetition compulsion. We're compelled to repeat our neurotic behaviors and patterns because we're so terrified of what would happen if we let them go. Right? Except nothing terrible would happen if we let them go. There'd be nothing left but that song. Right? Again, and yet you know that nothing in the world you learned is half so dear as this. And then he tells us again, listen. And again, it's the giving up of judgment through forgiveness that enables us to listen. It's that experience of being selfless. It's that experience of not seeing your interests as separate from anyone else. All right, it's that blurring of the distinction between a performer and an audience, between a written word and your experience of that written word. It's the blurring of the distinction between you and the other person. Right? And the distinction is always upheld by our neediness, by our specialness. It's allowing yourself to go outside of yourself and beyond yourself. Again, that's what that section beyond the body is all about. Right? Listen and see if you remember an ancient song you knew so long ago and held more dear than any melody you taught yourself to cherish since. And those melodies that we taught ourselves to cherish would be all the songs of specialness, all the songs of our neediness, all the songs of hate, right? All the songs of pain, all the songs of sickness, all the songs of what we think of as healing. Right? And we've cherished them because they keep the real song hidden. And again, what allows you to hear that forgotten song or remember that it's there even if you're still afraid of it is to know there's someone who's with you, who walks with you on your journey, with your detours as the path. Remember, the tiny mad idea of being separate from God was not the problem. It was forgetting to laugh that was the problem. Taking it seriously, that was the problem. Our special relationships are not the problem. It's the burden of guilt and sin that we place upon them and then project onto others. That's the problem. That's what Jesus means when he tells us more than once that the Holy Spirit does not take away our special relationships. He transforms them. He uses them as the curriculum through which he teaches us the meaning of forgiveness. He teaches us that there's a journey that we're on. And so we begin to see all of the stumbling blocks, all of the ways that we have fallen throughout our life now become the means of learning that there was a purpose behind them. And all I have to do is change the purpose. The purpose was to keep me away from that love and that song, and now the purpose is shifted because these now become the means of returning me to that song and that love.